So, recently I did a video called Every Adult Swim Show Ever. And as going through it, I looked at some of the pilots and I realized I'd never seen Welcome to Eltingville. And I thought it'd be cool to do like a small segment review. First off, I didn't see this in 2002. I saw this now. The context of that pretty much is my whole opinion of this, because it very much colors of it. I have, by the way, known of Eltingville for a long time. I never saw it. It just didn't happen. I had heard about it. I'm sure you know of people who know me who know of it. I know the song's been played on the Pizza Party podcast. I know all that. So the idea of this is this was based on a comic, Eltingville, and it is based around four friends. Bill, Josh, Pete, and Jerry. Very much into comics and general nerdery and everything like that. In 2002, when this was made, that was a thing that we didn't make everything about. So it was kind of unique. So I get why people obsessed over it, because at the time, that was something we hadn't seen before. These references, things like that. The animation style looks like the Clerks animated series. So I sort of understand the obsession that comes from those days. Watching it now, I see that crap all the time. On YouTube, on TV, and everything like that. And to be honest, I don't think it holds up very well. I don't really get the obsession with it, and I sort of agree with Evan Dorkin, the creator, says about it, in that it doesn't really showcase what the show can do. And I would say, yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. I can sort of see a gem of an idea in this. I actually think this is like maybe in episode 3 or 4. This is not a good pilot. This is not an episode that makes me go, I want to see more of this. I think for a lot of people they disagree, but it's not a pilot that's written in a way that makes you understand the characters. It's more about selling this Boba Fett plot and all this stuff. It shouldn't have been about that. It should have been primarily and 100% about setting up these characters. I understand also their friendship is very aggressive, and that's not a very kind of a personal thing to get into. It's a little not as into for most people. I wish they had introduced it better, and the creator has said that, and when I read that I was like, yeah, that's sort of what I was feeling through it. It does remind me of being into nerd stuff and going into comic book stores in the 90s in particular, when a lot of those trivia facts were like things you couldn't just know on the internet, and they went deep, like who really created Felix the Cat, all these things. It wasn't it went from really small nerd facts that no one would know to everything, because they have this. So basically, I should explain this better. They have the whole plot of this is you have all these characters, and they're kind of playing D&D, and you do get more of them by themselves, I will say, but then they go into this comic book store and see a Boba Fett still in the box, and they have a trivia off to see who can buy it. These two characters, and when they have the trivia off, it is actually a pretty intense trivia off, I will say that. That was kind of a more interesting part of the show. And I sort of getting into it, I got into it, but I just don't think it holds up very well. I don't think it's maybe the greatest pilot in the world. I don't really get the thing, but I also think I am too old for it. I should have watched this in 2002. I missed my window, and I had a window, and why I didn't ever go into it or no one showed it to me. Sometimes you miss stuff, and that's sort of what happened with it. But it sort of took me back to that time of 2002. It made me think of that time when that would have felt special. I remember seeing the first Mallrats and going oh my god, they're talking about variant covers in a movie. They're talking about comics in a movie. It felt crazy, and I sort of reminisced about that feeling while watching this pilot. But I don't watch Mallrats and think it's the best Kevin Smith movie. I recognize it has a lot of issues with it. So I think watching Welcome to Eltingville felt that way. To me, I think it has some endearing qualities to it. I do think you could have maybe written it better, and there's certain things you can do with that concept. But as a pilot alone, I think it goes down as one of the best, unmade Adult Swim things. For me, that's more Korgoth and stuff like that. I still am not the biggest fan of this. It was kind of a fun watch. I'm glad I finally saw it, and now when Pan plays that theme, I sort of know what it was from and the general nerdery of that. It is very much selling the nerd thing so hard. It can be a bit much, but I still like it, and I still I'll watch Mallrats for the nostalgia. Since I don't have nostalgia for this really, it just invoked nostalgia from me, but it did remind me of nerds I made stuff with that you probably know. Nerds that I was friends with. It reminded me of all those things, and it took me back to that. And it was kind of definitely a blast back into 2002's past. I get why Adult Swim passed on it, because it wasn't simple animation. It was apparently too expensive, and this pilot was not ready to go to series whatsoever. If it had just been the first 15 minutes of this, I think it would have happened. It's just the Boba Fett plot maybe was too much. But they also, like, if they had just made 15-minute episodes, this might have worked. Now that I'm thinking about it. Maybe that's a test case, I don't know. I sort of enjoyed it for whatever, you know, of the time of what it was, but I don't necessarily get the kind of potential that everyone sees in Welcome to Eltingville. Alright, sorry that was, I just shat on everyone's favorite pilot. Are people still watching after that? Oh, surprisingly, not as many, of course.